So yeah, my talk today is going to be around Azure Document Intelligence and how we can scan, extract, and start to automate some of the business processes that you may have. So yeah, moving on to what we are going to cover today. So going to do a little bit of an introduction into document intelligence, about what it is, etc. We'll then have a look at kind of how it works, sort of what the technologies behind it and the different components that it's using. Then we'll have a look at a couple of use cases within a few industries. So we'll have a look at finance, healthcare, and HR. And then we'll then move through into sort of how we can integrate this with workflows. So kind of discuss a few potential avenues within those industries of how we can implement document intelligence. And then I'll do a little bit of a live demo. So I'll kind of show you what the document intelligence studio is and kind of have kind of show you what information you can start to extract. So yeah, that is what we're going to be covering today. So I'll jump into a bit of an introduction into what Azure AI Document Intelligence is. So yeah, the kind of process at a really high level is that we provide a document, then some processing happens, and then we then get out some structured data. Yeah, often what we find with documents is that they're not always in the same structure. So documents can be in what we call an unstructured format. So that's like if you take an invoice, for example, you might have different bits of information at different locations on the page. You might have some providers might have invoices and then a different array of totals in slightly different orders. So we've got some unstructured data. And ultimately what we want to be able to do is have a reliable way of turning that unstructured data into structured data, which we can then use within a workflow and try and automate some of the business processes. So while I was like sort of doing my research for this talk, kind of wanting to understand a little bit of the lower level of how Microsoft have implemented the document intelligence. So I kind of abstracted it a little bit out for the purposes of this talk, but I've kind of they've got two real main components. So the first one, which I'd say is like the majority of what the model is doing, is a trained model by Microsoft for extracting information. That's like looking at generic documents and being able to scan that document and pull out some information. And then on top of that, as part of the service that Microsoft provide, they have certain pre-built models. So this might be for extracting invoices, some types of identification documents. It might be things like within finance of like pay stubs or like P45s, that type of thing. So there's then like a pre-built model has like an extra 20% that's specifically around training to that specific type of document. So yeah, you've got this big 80% chunk that is good at pulling specific bits of information from documents. And then you then got this smaller portion, which is training and being super specific on extracting totals from invoices or extracting first and last names from an ID card, etc. So that's kind of like the underlining. It comprises of two different parts. And then sort of like going a little bit further than that then. So the model that you use is split up into 4 parts. And so each of them is like a layer in which a document will be processed through. So I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit through what each of those layers are and what their purpose is. So the first layer is an OCR layer. So that's an optical character recognition layer. So that's almost passing the document through, and then it's then detecting where the text is on the page. So at a really high level, you've got an invoice that's on a white piece of paper, and then all the text is black. the OCR is scanning through and seeing where the difference between the white pixels of the document and the black or the whatever color the text is going to be. So it's then picking up all of those characters that are on the document and then grouping them together. The second layer, so after the OCR layer, you've got this what's referred to as an output analysis layer. So what this looks like is the structure of the document. So it's kind of looking at, does this document have tables? Does it have paragraphs? Does it have certain information grouped together? Does it have photos? Does it have signatures? And then it's then going to record exactly where they are on that document and then be able to use that in a decision later on. So as that will then refer to certain different types of documents. So if you've got like a group of table with loads of parts, it kind of narrows it down that this might be a type of invoice. That's kind of one example. The third layer that will then, so after that layout analysis, we'll go into what I'm calling the semantic parsing and entity extraction layer. So what this does is it's looked at and it's got all of the characters on the document and it's then put them into and analyze the structure of the document. So I've got certain tables and I might have paragraphs, etc. What the semantic parsing and entity extraction is doing is it's detecting what we have like key value pairs. So what do I mean by that? So the OCR might be able to pull out some text that says gross total, and then is able to extract another bit of text that says £300. So this semantic parsing is going to be able to make a decision that because they are closely together based on the layout analysis, that those things are related and coupled together. And then after that, so we've then got these key value pairs or slightly more complex structured data in terms of like, I guess like line items, you've got a description, a quantity and a price and a total maybe. After all of that, we'll then go into the final layer, which is classification. So yeah, based on all of the above, we might have a table, some totals, etc., invoice number, address, and all of those things are going to amalgamate to that we can then either confidently or not confidently say whether or not this document that we've scanned is a type of invoice, and we'll get a degree of confidence that yeah, the document that we've scanned is an invoice, for example. So yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of a quick run through in terms of what Azure AI Document Intelligence and sort of the underlying model and how it's working when we scan a document. So I'm now going to move on to the sort of understanding why document intelligence might be important across certain industries and sort of trying to understand some of the challenges that we have with potentially any manual processes and what the benefit of that might be. So some of the challenges that we have is that manual data entry. So manual data entry is pretty time consuming. So depending on the type of document that we have, like if it's a relatively sort of simple document, we might be able to get through quite a few, but some of the, I guess, the more complex documents that have got a lot more information and sort of need some reasoning behind that these things are related can become very time consuming and also potentially error prone as the complexity becomes more becomes increased. People are going to have to understand the context of the document and to be able to make those right decisions. So yeah, manual data entry has some risks, not has some risks, but has some drawbacks in terms of it being time consuming and error prone. Moving on to the compliance risk. So a lot of documents that kind of go through and get processed potentially will have sensitive information. So documents might have first name, last name, date of birth. These are all personal identifying information. So like within Europe, we have GDPR, people manually looking at these data, there is the potential there for sort of mishandling of this sensitive information. But I guess with using document intelligence, you can sort of abstract that away and have logging involved that stores sort of the record and when things were accessed. So you've got that full audit trail and know that it can be secure. You can also do things with like, I guess like with GDPR, we've got certain retention periods that you can only hold sensitive information for X period. We can start to automate that process that those rules in place by regulators that you can automatically clear them up so that you're not violating them in any way. The third one is delayed decisions. So I guess this is kind of relating to, and I'm going to use HR as an example here, but CV screening. So when someone sends a CV in or a resume in, this can then be like pretty time consuming. So I guess as an employer, when you put a job advert out, that you might require certain skills for that person to have for them to progress to a first or a second stage interview. So I guess what you can start to do is you can sort of start to build up those required skills. And I guess kind of going through people's CVs can be time consuming. But I guess if you were to automate this process, then being able to do that more streamlined, you could potentially make that engagement with that potential employee quicker and be ahead of your competition in terms of hiring top talent. And then higher operational costs. So kind of did a little bit of this was kind of on the back of the manual data entry with it being time consuming. So I kind of looked across in this data is from the UK market. So I had a look on the UK talent website and Glassdoor, and the average salary for a manual data entry role is around 24,000 per year. So when we kind of couple that with how many documents somebody can get through per day, it can become pretty expensive for that. I guess kind of in comparison to what document intelligence, some of the pre-built models are between like £7 or £8 per 1,000 pages scanned. And then some of your more complex model ones are around the £25 mark per 1,000 pages. So, depending on your use case, you can save potentially quite a lot of money with the type of documents that you're scanning with document intelligence. So there are some of the challenges that we might want to kind of tackle with implementing document intelligence. So moving on to some of the benefits that we have. So the first benefit I'm going to go through is automation. So I'll kind of provide some stats and within the specific industries, but a lot of the, I guess, like the manual processing of data can be automated. So this can have a significant reduction in the amount of time that people are spending doing that, and therefore resulting in that lower operational costs. So I guess if you can implement this and just have, I guess, like 2 people validating that the information extracted from the document is correct, you can potentially reduce your costs there by implementing this. The second benefit is accuracy. So I did a little bit of research in terms of what error rates do we have. So when a human is looking at a document, what is their error rate versus what are some of the more automated document intelligence error rates. So the bit of source information that I found, so per 10,000 data entries, on average, there was between 1 and 4 errors per 1,000 data entries. So that's like, below 1% error margin. Whereas for humans, there was around 100 to 400 errors. So you can kind of see that there's a 10x in error rate based on humans inputting that data versus an automated system that's sort of been verified that it's going to do that data extraction for us. So it becomes more accurate and it's quicker. So that's obviously some of the benefits. The third one is speed. So again, looking sort of at some stats around data entry roles, kind of wanted to understand like what sort of volume that they might be able to go through in a day. So on average, a data entry role might do 10,000 to 15,000 keystrokes per hour. So I guess that doesn't really mean a lot with kind of context, but I guess this then like followed on to sort of like, well, what does that mean in terms of documents processed per day? So between 10 and 15,000 keystrokes per hour, this translated into between 60 and 100 simple documents a day. So a simple document could be something that's, pretty short, not got a lot of information to extract, and doesn't really have a lot of, I guess, like crossing dependencies of like, well, I need to verify that these two things align. We've then got moderate complexity. So I guess that's kind of building on the simple one, a bit more of a complex document. Someone would averagely get through between 30 and 50 per day. And then the more high complex, so I guess the high complex could be like a paper that somebody's published and you've kind of got to go through and read and pick out critical bits of information. This is between 10 and 12 documents per day. So when I was doing a bit of testing with document intelligence, depending on it, the different type of data, like with a simple document, it was around 3 or 4 seconds sort of processing that document. With sort of your larger models could take up to 30 seconds to a minute to kind of process that. So you can sort of see that the amount of documents that we could get through in a day with this service could be free up a lot of time. And then the final one is workflow of integration. So I'll kind of go through this in a little bit, but it's been very easy to sort of integrate into. So like being able to, as we're predominantly a .NET software, that's what we build. Being able to integrate that with document intelligence has been really easy and seamless, to be able to kind of implement that in existing business flows that some of our clients have. Cool. So yeah, kind of moving on to a couple of the use cases that we've got. So kind of mentioned finance and HR, but also going to kind of look through healthcare. So yeah, finance, we can use document intelligence for invoice scanning. So yeah, you might have a large amount of invoices that people are sending you. You can use this to kind of process those invoices, get the line items, get the totals, and then be able to integrate that with potentially a finance system to pay people. The other one that I've kind of got is risk analysis. So I don't know if anyone's recently signed up to a bank recently, but I did it recently with Revolut, and when you went through, it got you to take a picture of your ID, got you to take a selfie, got you to take a picture of a proof of address, etc. So like these things are what we used to often like have to go into a local branch of a bank or send it off by post. Now we can sort of start to automate this and extract that information through photos, and then do that risk analysis of being able to, I guess, allow someone to open a bank or apply for a loan or all those types of things. The second industry that we've got is HR, so human resources. So the first one that I thought of was onboarding. So I guess when you join a new role, people have got to send in sort of an ID check. So you might have a passport, or you might have an ID that solely to verify who you are. I guess this could be thought of slightly more broadly. I guess like if you're working in childcare, etc., and you've got to do like an ISDBQ. I think it's an ISDBQ. Sort of like that check where you've got to, like, you're safe to work with children, etc. You sort of start to process those types of documents if you've got, I guess, part-time staff, etc. They can sort of start to streamline that process. And the other one is, I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but in terms of like CV screening. So yeah, I guess sort of being able to get resumes in, and you might say that if someone needs to have 2 years experience in .NET and some experience with Entity Framework, you can start to sort of add that validation in of the people that are sending resumes in, that they've got some of those required skills that you're advertising for particular roles. And then the third industry is healthcare. So intake forms. So I guess when you go to either like a local GP or a hospital, you might have to fill out some forms that is sort of doing an initial screening on why you're turning up there and what sort of medical assistance that you might need. So you can potentially start, when someone fills in a form, you can start to scan that and extract the information and sort of, streamline that process of someone having to manually enter that into a system. And the other one is record digitalization. So I think I saw something in the news around the NHS sort of looking at how they can take old medical records that they've had that were stored on paper, and how they can digitalize those and then start uploading those, which I guess kind of will transition to any sort of like record digitalization. So I think the other one that I saw was with the government looking at uploading old architectural records and plans that they've drawn out for buildings and sort of creating them into a digital record, so that, yeah, they're a bit easier, more manageable when you've got that digital copy. Cool. So yeah, moving on to a couple of the finance use cases, just kind of wanted to have a bit of stats of kind of done a little bit of research around and seeing how currently some businesses are using document intelligence to make their business processes a bit more efficient or save cost, etc. So the first one, which is the bottom left one, so 10K manual work hours saved. So Volvo deployed Azure Document Intelligence to extract data from both invoices and claims, and they in the paper that they published on the Microsoft website, they achieved by saving around 10,000 manual work hours. And I guess what was really interesting about reading this article was that they did a 6-week pilot. So that 6-week pilot was to kind of understand whether or not I guess this idea could be converted into a proof of concept and then implemented across a small subset of the workforce. And then after that 6-week pilot, they then said that yes, this is something that we want to do, and that transitioned into a 4-month rollout across a wider subset of their employee base to make those efficient savings. And the other one that I want to go through on this slide is the 99.9% accuracy scanning. So this was taken from an article about Fujitsu. So they implemented document intelligence into one of the platforms that they have, and they were able to achieve a 99.9% character recognition on their documents that they were processing. And based on their analysis of sort of the performance of what they had previously, which was 96% on handwritten text. So they saw that efficiency and accuracy, as kind of mentioned, one of the benefits that they saw, sort of a jump up to, 1 in 1,000 errors versus 40 per 1,000. So yeah, they saw a good improvement. The next one we've got is HR. So HR, some of the stats that I saw which were quite interesting was so the BBC reported that 42% of tech firms are now using AI for CV screening in 2024. So yeah, I thought that was already quite interesting, as I guess the AI sort of hype and craze within industries is sort of taking over a little bit. It was quite interesting to sort of see that, yeah, people that are a little bit more technical are starting to use this in different areas of their business to try and make them more competitive with recruitment. I think something that was really interesting about this one as well, that was sort of the uptake in the firms using AI. I can't remember the exact stats, but I think it was sort of from around the 3 or the 4% in 2023 all the way up to 42% in 2024. So we've seen a massive uptick in terms of businesses within the UK starting to implement AI to screen and recruit candidates, which I thought was really interesting. And then the other one that I'm going to go through is 50K hours saved in the hiring cycle. So this one was taken from Unilever. So they have implemented document intelligence to help within their recruitment process. The article that they published was that they'd used it to scan more than 250,000 resumes, which had resulted in around, they estimated 50,000 hours of labour. So sort of translating that, they spent on average around about 20 minutes reviewing a CV. So yeah, they've had a massive saving in the amount of hours, which will allow their HR to free up time and be able to add value elsewhere within the Unilever business. Cool. So they're the two that I wanted to walk through with HR, and then finally going through some of the stats for healthcare. So these were taken from an article that I was reading about Omega Health. So Omega Health are a biotech company that deal with health insurance and healthcare, and they've implemented document scanning, AI document scanning within their business. And with the report that they published, they've saved around 15,000 employee hours per month. So a massive saving in terms of, freeing up time of what people were doing and manually processing insurance claims, etc. And allowing them to sort of add value elsewhere within the business. In terms of people raising an initial claim or initial, they saw around 50% increase in the turnaround time, with also an accuracy of 99.5%. So yeah, massively being able to improve their service to their customers of reducing the time that they initially raise a claim to getting the ball rolling in terms of an insurance claim by 50%, and also with it being super accurate that it didn't need a lot of human intervention. Cool. So then the use cases. So I guess something that I guess is becoming ever more important and is kind of a hot topic around the AI/machine learning space of security and compliance. I guess as the sort of the tech industry is evolving really quickly. Something that we all want to be mindful of is sort of making sure that we still are compliant with any potential accreditations that you might have. So like ISO accreditations, we just want to be making sure, I guess as well, kind of mentioned it earlier within like compliance risk, that if we are scanning sensitive information, making sure that our processes support GDPR and any industry specific mandates. So with document intelligence, there is the support for GDPR. So I guess you can start to use lifecycle policies of where you're storing the documents, so that after 7 years, you can start to delete that data or any shorter period of time. I guess it also comes with great logging as the Microsoft Azure ecosystem gives you, so you'll be able to kind of dive into App Insights and see, and I guess with things like Microsoft Sentinel, have been able to look in security logs of when certain identities have been able to access that data. So that's really key to understand if there was any breach. Second one, data security. So built into the Azure Document Intelligence service, all of the data is encrypted at rest, and they provide a pretty comprehensive role-based access policy in terms of being able to like have a granular control over the different permissions of who can read and write from documents and being able to scan, etc. And I guess this kind of then fits further down into sort of the more of the Azure ecosystem, that you can start to lock it down even further in terms of wrapping it in a virtual network. and using private endpoints between your API so that you've got the highest security possible. And then, yeah, finally, kind of touched on it a little bit, but audit and transparency. So, yeah, again, fitting in with sort of the Microsoft .NET Azure ecosystem, being able to write logs and see in-app insights when you are accessing it, traceability to see sort of where any interactions with that document might have happened, and being able to easily debug, but also making sure that it's all security compliant in terms of not logging any sensitive information, which is really key. Cool. Moving on to a couple of examples then. So taken kind of had a thought about each of the industries that we've been through and just given a bit of a workflow for each of them. So first one is the finance. So quite a simple one, but I guess a customer is gonna, I guess they could mail it. So in the post, you could then get it in and scan it in. Someone could send an email, somebody could be taking a photo, etc. All these different ingestion points of an invoice, we can then scan it, and I guess building it into sort of a business workflow is that I guess if we were manually sort of scanning these documents, we'd want to be making sure that if you had 2 line items for £10 each, that then the total was then 20. So we can start to build in that validation of the numbers and the financial figures that we've extracted from the invoice make sense, and that they're all totting up, and yeah, that everything looks okay. And then I guess like the next step is that you might have other business processes. So I guess yeah, you might want to start doing some validation that you extract the customer name from the invoice, and you want to check within your system that that person exists, and you know that you should pay them, all those types of validation steps. And then I guess when that invoice has been validated, that all the financial figures and everything is all right within your business domain logic, you can then start exporting it into a finance system that you use, and then that would then automate that process sort of end to end. Yeah, the second one is a resume. So I guess, yeah, you open a job advert, you might put that, yeah, you need a certain experience in these 3 key skills. When you scan the document, you can then get the results of whether or not the document intelligence had a high confidence that this candidate had those 3 skills, and you could start to automate that if they didn't have them, they drop out, and you could send a rejection email of saying like, sorry, you didn't quite have the skills, or you can then go into your HR system to sort of manage that, maybe that first stage interview. So it kind of like streamlines that process of any potential candidates. And then for healthcare, kind of discussed it a little bit in terms of like patient forms, but yeah, I guess a patient form, they could fill out first name, last name, why they're coming to the GP or the hospital. And I guess the validation that you could be doing is you could be doing a lookup on that person within in the healthcare system. So I guess like if you put first name Rhys, last name Smith, kind of have a bit of validation within the healthcare system, like do I have a medical record within the healthcare system? Yes, okay, cool. I can attach this intake form against my medical record and potentially do some analysis on that of like, well, he came 3 weeks ago for a similar type of issue. I guess this is like a follow-up meeting to see if that thing has disappeared, for example. Cool. Yeah, so hopefully that kind of gives a little bit of an insight into maybe like how we can start using document intelligence within some workflows within those 3 industries. And then lastly, I am going to do a quick demo. So let me hop screens real quick. So cool, yeah. So hopefully everybody can see this, but yeah, this is the Document Intelligence Studio that Microsoft provide for the resource that for the resource. So I'm going to have a little bit look. So I'm on the custom extraction model, but I'm actually just going to kind of have a walk through some of the pre-built models. So yeah, so Microsoft, when I was kind of talking about like that 80% of the large models that are good at extracting information and sort of that little slither on top that is specific for particular documents. So these are some of the ones that Microsoft provide out of the box. So we've got, yeah, invoice receipts, ID documents, and then quite a lot around the US sort of targeted at US documents. So US mortgages, pay stubs, bank statements, checks, credit cards, etc. And then we've then got some too, so custom. So I guess like when you get start wanting to process a little bit more of complex documents, so that it might not, some of the pre-built models might not be able to extract everything. You can start to label and classify documents based on your more complex documents, but I'll kind of show you that in a little bit. So yeah, firstly, just gonna have a look at a couple of the pre-built models. So yeah, I'll jump into the identity documents. So hopefully this loads pretty quickly. Yeah, cool. So with all of the pre-built models, they give you a couple of examples just to kind of give you a flavor of like the type of data that you can extract from it. I did try to get some driving license up, but ChatGPT apparently violates their user policy, so it can't generate any formal government identification. So I'll use these just as a kind of a run through. But so yeah, selecting this, which is an Italian ID card. So I click here, I can run some analysis on this. And then hopefully after this, so yeah, this is sort of what I was talking earlier about. I've been able to process documents within 5 seconds to a minute. Like the bigger, the more complex the document is, it takes the model slightly longer, as that's to be expected. So yeah, so we can sort of see here, like hopefully around each of the bits of text, you can sort of see like these color-coded boxes. So this is the information that has gone through those 4 layers that we mentioned at the start of the talk. So it's kind of scan the document. In this case, they've got lots of different colors, but it's been able to identify the different text on the ID card. It's then done a bit of a structure. So I guess it's then gone, okay, cool, right. I can see that we've got surname and then a name below. That must mean that, and then the entity extraction / semantic parsing. It's then sort of seeing the pattern of having sort of the label above and then the value below. And then, yeah, the classification bit, as this is a pre-built model, it knows that it's looking for an ID card. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a look at it. So I guess what's really interesting here is that we sort of see each of the fields that have been extracted, and you can see the confidence which the model thinks that for the date of birth of this person on the ID card, that it's the 28th of March 1987. There's 80% confident that is the value, which, you know, I guess yeah, when we look at the document, it is hovering over. It does look like it is the date of birth. Yeah, as we can kind of sort of see, the thing that I was really interested in was that this pre-built model isn't that good. Sort of when you look at it, like I was expecting sort of to see when you use these pre-built models that this would be really high, like it'd be in the 90% ranges, but it's not. I've not actually tried it with like proper ID cards, but I'd be interested to sort of see and upload my own ID card, I guess, to see what the confidences look like with that. But I thought this was kind of a good starting point of being able to show like why the custom extraction models that you can create are really, really powerful. So if I kind of just jump back into this and then scroll down and then look at the custom extraction model, I've created this project before the talk, just so it streamlines the talk a little bit, but hopefully when it loads. Cool, yeah, so I have managed to find a driving license sample from the DVLA website. So one of the things that you can do is that when you upload it, so I've run the the run layout analysis. So that's kind of like one of the layers that we were talking about previously. And you can sort of hopefully see on the screen that each of like these values got a slight tainted background of yellow. So what I can do is I was having a bit of a play before, but yeah, we can see here that we've got a signature here. So if I select that, I can then type in here. So signature, I can create a new field and I can then tell it what type of field type it is. So we know that this is like going to be someone's signature. But what's something that's quite interesting when I was sort of having a play with this is that, yeah, the signature, I guess it's not that good. So if I was to like hover over that and then put signature, it doesn't pull it out very well because this is a multi-box one. So hopefully, I guess as the model sort of gets improved upon over time, you'll be able to start using multi-text boxes for this. Or the other approach is that I guess when you start having IDs and you're using real training data, sorry, that was a jumble of words, start using real training data that the data that you're using when you scan the layout, that it's got the signature as one whole block. So it's just the layout analysis would just come back as a single block. But yeah, the layout is pretty cool. So if you then just like kind of hover over that, so you can sort of see that, yeah, this would then be so country, enter a field. This is going to be a field, and you can start to label up your custom models. So then say, yeah, cool, right, this is then going to be address, new field. So yeah, that you would then sort of label up. Microsoft recommend that you should have around about at least 5 documents, but sort of getting the more the better. The thing that we've noticed with using this is that the more documents that you do add to it, you want to have a clear and concise training labeling approach. So when you start, looking at IDs, naming things exactly the same, labeling them as the same thing over and over again, will add to your model performance. Like if you started flipping around like Morgan here is your first name, and then on a different ID, number 2 was your first name, the model would get confused as you had inconsistencies in that labeling approach. So yeah, something as you add more models, the thing that you want to be aware of is, yeah, having some consistency in the model. Cool. So that was my live demo. So if I kind of jump back to the presentation, hopefully that is it. I'll have a bit of a Q&A, so I'll just have a little quick check to see if there is anything. But as I do that, just wanted to say, right, give me 2 seconds to try and pull it up. It was coming up earlier, but must have gone. Right, that's it. More Q&As. But yes, I just got a couple of questions which I'll answer. So one question we got is, what controls exist to ensure confidential documents would not be leaking while training? Yes, that's a really good question. So I think it's somewhere in the Microsoft documentation that yeah, it's all GDP compliant, that yeah, they based on the tier of the service that you select within Azure, they've got disclaimers that yeah, the data that you're uploading doesn't get pulled back into the general model for training. So it's treated as something entirely separate. So yeah, your potential sensitive and confidential document information isn't being pulled back into the general model that is the foundation of what you're going to be using. Yeah, that's a really good question. Cool. Another question we've got is like, do the real world cost savings you should take into account the cost of training the models? And then a little bit of an extension of that, so I was just reading it. the follow on this is just how much training, how much reasonable training would reduce the cost of saving. You should. Yeah, so the £25 per 1,000 pages that I quoted earlier, yeah, that doesn't include any training time. So that's billed slightly differently. I think based on like each of the resources that you create, you get a free allowance to start. So I think it's something like 10 hours free per month that you get included for training. We've done a little bit of I found that, yeah, in upping the amount of training time versus adding more data, yeah, upping the training time from like, I think the minimum's half an hour. I think I tried half an hour, 4 hours, and 10 hours. Didn't see a massive amount of improvement. What I did see a massive improvement was I went from 5 to 10 to 50 documents, the model performance from sort of adding more consistently labeled data to the model to then get more better results was far better than letting the model train for longer. I guess something that I could start to look at is that as I've now got more data within my models, can I start training more, and do I see any write a bit of a performance suite to validate the tests and see whether or not I get an improved an improved model. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. And then, yeah, one final question. Around having access to the slides. Yeah, so I'll work with our team, our side, and I'll hopefully be able to publish the slides, so everyone has access to them, to kind of go through and ask us any questions if you've got any. Cool. I think that is all of the question. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so just jumping back to the presentation then. Just want to say thank you very much for either giving up your lunchtime or having this on in the background. It's always interesting to sort of demo new and cool things that is happening in the world of tech. So yeah, appreciate people coming and joining in. Just wanted to shout out our next tech talk that we've got on the 17th of July next month by Richard, our technical director. So yeah, he's going to do a session around how to build a tech radar and sort of what the advantages of having a tech radar is. So please tune into that and sign up. Cool. So I'm going to leave it there. Once again, thanks for joining, anyone. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Cheers, bye.